What's going on, guys? And I hope you're having a wonderful day. And if you're not, what I'm about to tell you probably won't make it any better. So, I was recently made aware, as I was perusing through the news, of the wildfire, epidemic, you could call it, in the United States. So, this is coming from the National Interagency Fire Center. So, this is on July 30th, so a couple of days ago. They say fire weather and conditions of these fuels across the country continue to challenge wildland fire managers. Currently, 83 large fires have burned 1,741,281 acres across 13 states. New large fires were reported in Idaho, Washington, and Wyoming. Nearly 22,000 wildland firefighters and support personnel and 30 Type 1 and Type 2 incident management teams are assigned to incidents across the country. So basically, there's a plethora of large wildfires, not just some itsy bitsy bonfires, but some big fires that are ravaging the countryside, right? And the states that they mentioned 13 states, and so these are what they are. So there's Idaho, they have 22 fires, Montana with 20, Washington with 9, Alaska with 7, Oregon with 6, Wyoming with 5. California with 5, Arizona with 2, Nevada with 2, South Dakota with 2, Colorado with 1, Utah with 1, and Minnesota with 1. So what surprises me the most is Idaho, because when you hear wildfires, you always think the western United States, especially California, which I guess brings me to the wildfire that's garnered the most media attention, what they call the Dixie Fire. And they say here, the Dixie Fire is California's largest active wildfire, having burned more than 240,000 acres of land, an area larger than New York City. Over the course of the last 2 weeks, its size jumped significantly last weekend when it merged with the Fly Fire in Laysan and Plumas National Forest. More than 7,800 residents across Butte and Plumas counties have been ordered to evacuate as of Monday morning. So these fires are absolutely huge. Okay, they have displaced so many people, and they're not really under control so far as I can tell. The Dixie Fire on Friday was just 23% contained, according to California Fire. Officials say that the state's worsening drought and low precipitation levels fueled by climate change are making it hard to fight fire, which threatens more than 10,000 structures in the region, with more than 60 already destroyed. So this thing has already destroyed a ton of buildings, and displaced so many people. 7,800 people have been forced to flee their homes. Okay, it's kind of crazy because you don't hear about this all the time. Well, I guess in California it's more common, but not anywhere else in the United States. But as you said earlier, there was 83 across the United States. It's ridiculous. And where are these people going to go? Do they have family and friends that they can live with, or are they forced to live on the streets, or is the government going to help them? It doesn't say. It's just very crazy to me. And they go on to say, in one of the largest emergency mobilizations underway in the United States, at least 6,079 personnel have been called up to fight the Dixie Fire. They face an array of vexing conditions during the 24-hour shifts, including hiking more than 15 miles through rough mountainous terrain to reach places where engines are simply unable to advance. So these firefighters are having to fight on foot, okay, and against these huge wildfires. Okay, they don't have the help of the fire engines and stuff that provide the most of the effective fire putting out ability, I suppose. Okay, and just to put that in perspective, there's 6,000 personnel out of the 22,000 across the entire United States. So this fire is one of the biggest. That's a quarter? Yeah, just a little bit more than a quarter of the total personnel just fighting this one fire. And they're having to hike miles and miles to go fight this thing, okay? And they did bring up how it was started, because that's what, intrigued me, what caused this thing. And they say here that the cause of the Dixie Fire is still under investigation, but in a report filed to the California Public Utilities Commission, Pacific Gas and Electric said its power lines may have played a role. Pacific Gas and Electric, PG&E for short, reported one of the utilities repairmen was sent to the area along Highway 70 on July 13th to investigate an outage at a hydropower dam on the Feather River. From a distance, the repairman reported seeing a blown fuse on a power line in an area that was challenging to reach, the utility reported. Hours later, when the employee arrived at the scene, the 2 fuses were blown and there was a fire at the base of the tree that was leaning against one of the company's electric poles, the report says. So what it sounds to me like is this power line company, either through dereliction or neglect, or maybe through some other natural cause, allowed their power lines to deteriorate to such a point where they would combust, or at least to the point where the slightest disturbance to them would cause them to combust or ignite, right? And the sad thing is, this isn't even the first time this company's done something like this. They go on to say that in June 2020, PG&E pleaded guilty to 84 separate counts of involuntary manslaughter and 1 felony count of unlawfully starting a fire in the deadly case of the Camp Fire in 2018, which destroyed nearly 19,000 buildings. So this company looks like it has a history of negligence when it comes to maintaining their property, structure, assets, whatever you want to call it. They'll skimp on the maintenance to save a few bucks. But I don't think it worked out so well, because they agreed to pay $3.5 million and a $13.5 billion settlement to compensate the victims. So they paid the $3.5 million to prosecutors and the $13.5 to compensate the victims. So I don't think it's working out too well for them here. So I mean, you would have hoped they learned their lesson, but I guess there's no underestimating corporate greed. So this makes PG&E have a kill count of probably over 100 at this point, because there was the 84 from the 2018 fire, or the 2019 fire, and that was 2018, the 2018 fire, and then however many from this fire, because they haven't even calculated the deaths yet, and so I'm sure it's at least a few dozen at this point. It's been burning for 2 weeks and thousands of acres. It's ridiculous, man. These guys need to be punished with something, because obviously what they got hit with last time wasn't effective at all in deterring this behavior. So I hope California can come up with something. And usually when it comes to corporations, that's hitting them in the pocketbook, because that's where it matters. That's what they're all for profit. But apparently $13.5 billion was not enough. So if you're going to find them again, it better be a lot more than $13.5 billion. That's for sure. And this is, of course, assuming that PG&E is actually responsible for the fire, but it looks like it is from what I can tell here. And it doesn't look like it's getting better anytime soon, because it's only 23% under control, the entire fire, and the authorities are now urging Sacramento residents with respiratory problems or heart disease to limit outdoor exposure. So they're recommending you don't even go outside. The smoke is so bad. That's terrible. That is something needs to be done. These guys need to be held accountable. That's all I know. Because I'm tired of all these corporations getting off scot-free, essentially. Because if it was your average Joe who caused something like this, you bet he would have the book thrown at him for doing something like this. I guarantee you he wouldn't see the light of day again and would be in debt for the rest of his life trying to pay off that fine. I guarantee it. But these companies are like, nah, it's okay. We'll just pay $13 billion, shrug it off, and do it again next year. It's ridiculous, man. Just ludicrous behavior from these guys. But again, this is just one fire out of 83 that are currently going on across 13 different states, like I said in the beginning of the video. But who even knows how those started? All I know is that these firefighters are absolute heroes. I mean, trekking into burning forests to save people like this, man, that's heroic behavior. I don't know how else to describe that. Heroic. So if y'all know a firefighter, just take some time out of your day and thank them for what they do, because they really are heroes. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. And if God willing I'm not caught up in a blaze, I'll be seeing you in the next one.